Got to break up the heat somehow, and this is our one day where we're finally going to dip into the 90s for highs, but then right back at it. By tomorrow, we're going to be 100 or hotter, and that's going to be the case through the weekend. You know, this time of year, when you get your big ridge of high pressure, when it's locked and loaded, the pattern tends to stick around for weeks and weeks. So we're moving into our second week, essentially, of triple-digit heat, but things get much better with a new pattern change, cooling for everybody going into next week. We're watching that plume of smoke and that elevated smoke layer across many different spots today, but when you actually get underneath that, you can see for people's personal air quality sensors networked by purpleair.com, this is their data, and these are people's personal devices. You know, the data in here is pretty good, but you can, when they cluster, it really helps you see where things are setting up. So first of all, the fire is going to create this smoke. In the morning, it tends to hug the ground, and then by the afternoon, it tends to elevate and rise with the heat of the day. And then where it's actually running into higher elevations, since it's that layer where it touches, you know, land essentially, that's where the worst air quality is. It's actually well north of the fire. The problem is that we're looking at adding more smoke in the next day or two because they're clearly working on it, but the fire's still growing. So you just watch the winds with another layer of where that fire is, and you could see that by later on this afternoon into the evening, there's a decent chance it's going to move off to the north and then also spread to the south. It's going to run into the same problem as yesterday. It's going to go up and then run into that inversion and start spreading out in more locations. For some of you, it's elevated, not a factor, but where it intersects with the ground, it's going to be another day with poor air quality and just hazy skies. Coincidentally, for the valley, because of the wind direction blowing from the ocean to the foothills, it's keeping most of the smoke and haze away, but that's not a guarantee that that's going to keep happening in the days ahead. What we have is our standard summer pattern. There's very few exceptions to what we get with this type of pattern. It's going to be hot and it's going to be dry, but you see subtle changes day by day. For example, it was nice and cool this morning, the coolest morning we've seen in a while, upper 50s in some cases. Now we're looking at temperatures that are in the 70s. Yesterday, it was 90s by noon, so already you can tell, okay, it's definitely not as hot as yesterday. We're going to be looking at some partially hazy skies and highs in the upper 90s, which is better than yesterday and way better than a couple days ago when we were close to records and the hottest day of the year at 105. So we're moving in the right direction, and you're going to love the evening forecast. We've got the 70s fairly early, so if you can just hang on till about sunset, then all of a sudden with the combination of wind, cooling skies, cooling temperatures, it's going to be actually a pretty decent valley evening out there with probably still hanging on to the nice air quality because that wind direction is keeping the smoke at bay. We're going to get a delta breeze, not that strong, but enough, and then it starts to weaken. And then you know what happens next. Once you start losing the wind, the pattern's still holding strong, you're looking at a return to triple digits. Now, it doesn't seem like that much, you know, from 98 to 100, but then watch the lows in the morning. They start to creep up as well, so you're spending more time at heat and less time cooling down. But look at this pattern change. We're going back to the 90s with 50s again for lows by the time we get to next week, and that should hang on for all of next week.